Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending RetailNext's first fireside chat of 2025 NRF. I am very excited to welcome Jimmy Elzaky, Director of Retail and Real Estate at Biologique Recherche, with me this morning. Before we get into that, I just want to do a little bit of a background on myself. I'm Joe Shasteen, Global Manager of Advanced Analytics at RetailNext. And RetailNext is the first vertically oriented IoT platform to provide e-commerce style analytics to brick and mortar stores. We are the pulse of the store. We are trusted by more than 450 retailers across 100 countries in order to enable retailers to get real-time insights into traffic and improve the shopper experience. And again, thank you so much for joining me today, Jimmy. Would you mind giving me a little bit of background of yourself and Biologique?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, RetailNext. So like Joe mentioned, Jimmy with Biologique Recherche. We're a French skincare company based out of Paris. We've been around since 1970. And we are kind of very disruptive in the skincare industry where there's a lot of brands out there. But what we do is we kind of take skincare and we kind of turn it on its side. It's a very curated, very personalized, and we like to say hyper customized brand where there's really something for everybody. There isn't a one size fits all product. And we really take pride in personalizing your routine. And our motto is building better skin as a brand. And people have really seen like life-changing results where people have suffered with like eczema, acne, rosacea, post-pregnancy, like hormone outbreaks, and people's skin has really changed and evolved over the years. So we've kind of built this cult following where you kind of have to seek out the brand to find it. A little bit about me, native New Yorker. I've been in retail since I was in high school and just kind of fell into it and really made it into a career. And now I'm here. I've worked for some brands like L'Oreal. I've overseen e-com, D2C, retail stores, warehouses. Prior to BR, I was at Dr. Barbara Sturm, global head of operations. So basically, synchronizing client experience across the globe, which is not an easy task, and building and opening flagship boutiques all over the world in Europe, Asia, UK, Canada, Mexico, US. So yeah, excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So to get right into it, want to talk a little bit about BR's kind of history of physical stores. So the first store was opened in 1992 on the Champs-Élysées, and now you've started to open up more stores in the US. So wanted to talk a little bit about the journey of physical stores, kind of how that's expanded over time. What is the goal of the stores? What is the experience that you want to provide to customers? And yeah, especially as you've expanded more into the United States.
Cool. So retail for us is kind of something that's new, which sounds crazy, but the last 40 years of the brand, we've really only focused on being in high-end luxury hotels like the Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, and you really had to like search and find the brand. It wasn't just readily available. And we really prided ourselves in that. And then we were like, wait, we're really good at what we do. Why don't we have our own, retail stores? So in 1992, we opened our first, which we call our stores ambassades, which in French means embassy. Makes no sense to any of us, but it's basically the rarest experience you're going to get for the brand. So it's a 360 experience. You can have a personal skin analysis. You can experience our facials, body treatments, scalp treatments, and then you can also explore the full range of products. We actually just launched e-com, which sounds crazy, 3 years ago in the US, which is wild because most brands have had e-com since the internet launched in the 90s. So we're a little behind in the times, but what we do really well. The US is really the focus for us. We have a few ambassades around the world, in Europe and in Asia. Soon more to come in Europe as well, but the US is really where we're focusing on our expansion plan. The US is our biggest market for the brand in general. US represents about 65% of the global revenue for the entire company. So US expansion is our big focus. Right now in the US, we have LA, which is our flagship on Melrose Place. We have Boston and Newbury Street, and we just opened on Wednesday, where it literally came from yesterday, in Houston in River Oaks District, and there's a lot more to come. So we're excited.
No, that's great. That's really exciting to hear. And actually, so what I wanted to ask about too was some of the learnings that you've taken from maybe the opening on Newbury Street in Massachusetts to Houston. What did you find as you were kind of opening that third location in the Houston, and any takeaways, anything that you learned from that Newbury opening that you applied when you were opening the Houston location?
Don't order things at 3 o'clock in the morning on Amazon. Definitely, as we open more and more stores, we learn like what not to do and what to do and what works well. So now we've kind of formulated this like template, this like major, master checklist of all the things we need to do, who's responsible for what. Or before it was just chaos and everybody was trying to do everything. So I think from an operational standpoint, we've definitely mastered the operations of who's going to do what, who's, ordering what, because it was LA. It was prior to my time when it opened. It was an absolute nightmare to get it open. And now that we've kind of mastered this like template and science, we can just like open them as we need, which is great. RetailNext has been a big part of that, so we're happy to have them.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, we're definitely always happy when you're able to make those changes based on, experience of opening up other stores, using the Retail Next data as well to kind of inform that is always, what the goal is. But to take a little bit of a step back to kind of talk about the overall health and beauty industry at this time. So, overall retail, it's been tough for the last couple years, but health and beauty we found has actually been one of the more resilient categories, at least in 2023. It was our top category, showing about 2% growth in traffic year over year. Number one of our 5 categories that we publicize. This year, it's been a little bit more kind of about average. We've seen it kind of more in the apparel segment. Jewelry's kind of stepped up a bit. But kind of curious for your thoughts, and especially like what BR might be doing in particular. How are you kind of combating some of those overall trends in retail where we're seeing, traffic declining a little bit, but how are you trying to utilize, the traffic or the data that you're getting to make better conversions off the people who are coming into your store?
I think, beauty really rose during COVID. So during COVID, I was working at L'Oreal, and we saw an insane increase in business, especially in skincare. Lipstick was kind of down because everybody was wearing face covering, so no one was really wearing lipstick, but skincare was at like its peak during COVID. So everybody was at home, everyone was bored. We're like, what are we doing? So everyone was on TikTok doing, skincare routines, face masks, at home facials, at home gua sha, all the things. So I think ever since people were locked inside, I think there's been this huge focus on wellness. So wellness in general and that whole industry, beauty kind of ties into it. Even in recession periods, people are still buying a lipstick, they're still buying a face cream, they're still buying a mask, where they might not be going out and buying the fancy purse or the fancy dress. For us, we're such a relationship built, experiential retail space where it might not be your everyday, but people are still going to take care of themselves. You might not go out and buy the Chanel bag every day, but you're definitely coming in like once every 2 months for a facial, just like people go to the gym or go get their nails done or their hair done. It's become part of this daily routine. Some of the data that we've used from Retail Next, especially for our traffic, is mostly for scheduling. So because we're appointment based, we don't really have like December is not our peak season. Every month is holiday for us because we have our loyal clients who come in month after month. Our repeat client rate is super high. Average right now, about 50 to 55% a month are repeat clients because they're people that are coming in monthly to get their facials or to pick up their products. For us, the data we use most is try to figure out what the peak days are for us. Because we're not a traditional retailer, it's not like Saturday is the day where everyone's going out to buy their skincare. It's like maybe on a Monday after work, I'm going to go get a facial or a massage. So for me, it's, utilizing that data to figure out, okay, how many appointments do we need to have open for those peak days where we see people? Because I need to maximize on the clients that are coming in. And sometimes we have waiting lists because I only have 5 employees on a day, but then there's 10 people waiting to come get, treatments. So it's really interesting. It's definitely different than like a traditional, apparel or fashion retail store.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one item I wanted to follow up on too, because in particular, especially being so appointment based at this time, how did you see the need for traffic? Because I know some retailers who, have appointment based, they don't think there's a lot more walk in traffic. What have you seen and kind of what was the impetus for getting traffic, even though you are such appointment based, retailer?
Yeah. I think it's 2 things. Like, even though we're a brand that's been around for 50 plus years, we're still working on brand awareness. So even when we look at opening retail locations, we know that if we go, people will come, but we want to also acquire new clients as well. So we look at high traffic, streets like Newberry Street, Melrose Place in LA. Might not be the highest traffic, but it's prestigious and it's a destination. So people are going to come seek out the brand. For me, like, the ratio of people walking in versus people, coming in for appointments is kind of like 3 to 1. And what's beneficial for us is we offer more than just something to sell. We offer an experience. So someone might come in, a brand new client off the street. Hey, I need a new face cream. I need this. We can convert that client into a repeat client by booking them an appointment to come back in a week or 2 weeks to get them to come back in. So our conversion is actually pretty impressive compared to any other retailer I've worked at. Or on Newberry Street, we're at 42% conversion of people coming in because that return rate is so high. So we might not have 1,000 people walking in a week. Even if it's 300, 40% of those people are being converted, which is really awesome.
Yeah, kind of along those lines too. As you've been working with the traffic data and the conversion data in particular, was there anything else that was surprising to you or really interesting that you weren't expecting to see? Maybe conversion, maybe the three to one ratio, but anything else kind of along those lines that you found was kind of really opened up by having traffic data in these locations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you expect as a retailer, like the weekend is going to be your busiest, time. And a lot of times for us, like Monday, sometimes in most of our locations is the busiest day where like any apparel retailer I've ever worked at, Monday was the slowest day. Monday was where you had like minimal staff. Most people were off. Some days for us, Mondays are $20,000 days, and Saturdays a $5,000 day. So the traffic has really helped us kind of really pinpoint like, okay, this is where we need all the troops on these days, and this is where maybe we could be a little bit lighter in terms of staffing. Also with the traffic, when we plan events as well. So if we do events for clients, we're like, okay, these are the days that clients are coming to us. So these are the days we need to target to have events. Where we've done weekend events and they've kind of flopped because people are doing other things on the weekend. So that's really helped us as well. And then another thing that I've used in the past is like the heat maps to kind of see like directions as to where clients are going. For us, we're a little less like, we don't launch new products all the time, but if we are going to focus on, where we're positioning, let's say a new launch or a new product in the space, we're like, okay, client comes in, they're walking directly to the right counter. This is where I'm going to focus our new product and our new launch or something we want to kind of repush. This is where we position it. And also just from general merchandising perspective or store layouts, we kind of, we take that into consideration as to when we do our VM layouts as well.
Great, great. Yeah. Well, kind of we work with many brands, right? And the most successful brands are those ones that are able to share the data throughout the organization in order to make, data-driven decisions, as close to real time as possible. So I'm curious about how you're able to share the data internally, either with, corporate leadership or with store teams. What does that look like at BR?
Well, the first thing that's really great is when we have a rough week, I can be like, well, nobody walked in the store. And then that's my excuse because then the CEO is like, what's going on? Why aren't we busy? But for the most part, our store managers have access to our portals so they can go in when they're making their schedules. Because we're appointment based and people like to book in advance, we usually try to make our schedules about a month and a half in advance. So we look at the month prior's traffic data and we kind of use that to figure out, okay, how many appointment slots are we opening up for Monday to Wednesday? How many are we having Thursday to Sunday? And we use it that way. That's more like on a store level. For scheduling is really the biggest thing. And then on the corporate side, we're using it in our BI dashboards that we have internally, where we're plugging it in. We're looking at it on a global level to compare to like other stores around the world, where maybe in Europe the foot traffic is much lower than it is in the US. And we use it internally to kind of compete on who has the best conversion, who has the most traffic. Why is this store busy? Why is this store not? And it's really interesting to see like month over month, like in Newberry, summer was our biggest peak time. Like we saw double the traffic in August, which normally August is vacation season and no one shopping. And December was our lowest traffic month, which is wild because I would think it would be the opposite. So really interesting insights.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting when you see those sorts of trends that kind of buck what you would expect out of, traditional retail in that way. But you had also mentioned, kind of opening new stores as well. So I'm curious, are you using the traffic data and making any sort of decisions around store segmentations? What type of store is going to go into certain locations? How are you, first of all, how do you look at your own stores when you're opening them? And then how does the traffic maybe play into some of the decisions around that as well?
So we kind of segment our retail stores. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with like A, B, and C stores, like different levels. So for us, we have three formats. We have large flagships, which are going to be major cities like your LA, Miami, Dallas, New York. And then we have what we call large format. So they're like those bigger secondary cities like, I don't know, like a Houston, a San Francisco, a Chicago maybe. And then we have like the boutiques, which depending on the neighborhood. So like Newberry for us is more of like a boutique because it just kind of it fits with the vibe of Newbury. You wouldn't really open this mega flagship on this, small street. Something like a Greenwich Avenue in Connecticut is going to be more of a boutique. It's like that neighborhood client. It's not very tourist driven, where flagships are going to see a lot more tourist traffic than neighborhood stores. And then what kind of, when we do our planning for like sales planning, the size of the store, like how big it's going to be, how many treatment rooms we're going to offer, we kind of look at those comparable others. So we have three. We did it on purpose, where we opened kind of one of each format to test to see which one's working. And then so we have LA, which is our flagship on the West Coast. We have Houston, which is our kind of like central large format. And then we have our boutique in Newbury, and that's one of each. And it's interesting to see because the traffic trends are completely different. And business is completely different. So now I'm like, okay, we're planning for, 2026 and 7 and 8 and 9. Okay, how many boutique, stores am I going to plan? And kind of basing it off of Newbury, it's like, okay, boutique sees this much traffic. This is how much sales we're going to anticipate, annual revenue. This is also where the cap is, because you could say I'm going to do $5 million, but is that realistic? Can you pump out $5 million in this small little store? Do you have enough rooms? Do you have enough, estheticians? So that's super, super helpful, especially in like the long-term planning as well for us.
No, that's great. Yeah, especially understanding forecasting, right? So you understand expectations and what's reasonable. But kind of along those lines too, do you expect the experience to be different for a customer walking in if they walk into your flagship versus if they walk into a boutique location as well?
This is like the $1 million question. I think one of the hardest things to experience and to like master in retail is walking into the same brand store in a different location and having the same exact experience. Because sure, all of us have shopped at many retailers, but like, I don't know, maybe you go to like Bloomingdale's in New York and then you go to Bloomingdale's in LA. It's very rare that the experience is going to be the same, and it's a really hard thing to nail. But the goal is to have the identical experience, which is exceptional customer service, exceptional treatments in every location, whether it's the US, Europe, Asia. Of course, like, everywhere you go is going to have a little bit of a different vibe, but the experience and the client should leave feeling exactly the same regardless of where they visit.
So just kind of final question for you on that. What are you looking forward to for the rest of 2025, 2026, potentially, with using traffic data or with using any sort of interior data, like you mentioned, using direction maps as well to inform some decisions. So yeah, what are you looking forward to most about the rest of the year 2026 from a new store opening perspective, and potentially as well with additional traffic and, understanding more data about your stores as well?
So I think this year in general, 25, now we have like our three formats. We're kind of testing them to see like what's working, what's not working. And we're right now building a 5-year expansion plan. So from now until 2030, to see, how many flagships are needed, how many boutiques we need, and then also focusing on not oversaturating the market, because we still want to be niche and we still want to be, sought after. It's not like, you can just pop into any department store. We're not sold at Bloomingdale's. We're not sold at Sephora. We're not at Ulta. You can't just like walk in and buy it. Even online, it's still really hard to buy the product, and we kind of do it on purpose. And for us, we're trying to really perfect the US retail model because it's still very new. Our stores are some are only a few months old and some are 3 years old. So we still don't have like this, key foundation. And I think we're trying to build and master and really refine our processes, our client experience, scheduling, all the things that, go into building a store. So that this way, when we expand, we do it right. We don't just open stores for fun and it's like, oh, well, it didn't work. Sorry. And then for the future, when we talk about expansion, for the future, we're kind of looking at about 10 stores total. I keep calling them stores, ambassades, total for the US. Again, like key cities, like your Dallas, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta. And when we do them grand. We don't just do anything like, can I say half-ass? When you walk into one of our stores, I mean, everything is like the finest materials, the finest flooring, the finest water. Even the tray that you're served like a tea on is like real travertine. I mean, it is just such a luxe experience. And we want to be able to continue doing that. But we have to do it right. So, traffic has been a big thing for us, especially planning store sizes and neighborhoods, and what the expectation has been really, really key for us.
And just one quick follow-up on that too. When you're actually picking the location within those cities, you don't have the in-store traffic to do. So what type of data are you using for making those decisions of, where actually within Miami or where actually within Houston are these stores going to go?
So I think co-tenancy is a really big one. We obviously want to be adjacent to like high-end luxury retailers, and we have like a curated list of retailers that we kind of follow. So we look at who are we sharing clients with, right? Like where is our client going? Are they going to Brunello? Do they shop at Hermes? Are they at Cartier? So most of our stores are kind of surrounded by those like big luxury players because we do share clients with them. And what happens is most of their clients become our clients if they aren't already. Depending on the market, we don't really do malls. We're not a mall place because think about it. You're about to spend $300-400 to go relax. The last thing you want to do is like walk through a mall through like an Auntie Anne's and like little kids running around. And that for me, that's not relaxing. So we really look at street stores, or we look at like outdoor, I hate to call them malls, but lifestyle centers, which is what we have in Houston, in LA and in Newberry, there's street stores. New York will be a street store as well. So it's hard because there's very few luxury outdoor centers in America. So we really are looking at those places where someone can just drive up to the spa, park outside, go have their treatment, get in the car, go home, and get cozy. We aren't really a mall, kind of place. And then it's just we usually use a lot of like real estate data. Foot traffic is a big one. So like even on Newberry, the whole street's busy, but there's blocks of streets that have a lot of foot traffic, and there's blocks where you have all these beautiful stores and like this much foot traffic. So it's like, the rent's high and the foot traffic's low. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but also, infrastructure, facade, building structure, things like that are also really important for us.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. And thank you everybody for attending today's session. Again, thanks again, Jimmy Elzaky, Director of Retail and Real Estate at Biologique Recherche. Thank you very much. Thank you.